Hey guys, Phillips here with my August 25th DVD update. I talk about all the DVDs and Blu-rays I've gotten over the last 2 weeks or so. Like I always say, if you enjoy these DVD Blu-ray updates, definitely give the video a thumbs up, a like. Let me know what you think below. Let me know what you think of the titles that I've reviewed in this update, any suggestions for movies I should check out for future updates. Now the first one I got from Cinedime is the new Studio Ghibli film from Up on Poppy Hill. Now I will say this is more, because some of the Studio Ghibli films are kind of more like a fantasy film, like My Neighbor Totoro. Hopefully I'm saying that right, but, some of those kind of like, have more of like kind of a magical kind of feel to this. This is more of a straight-lace kind of movie, but done in their style, which is really amazing animation. I know it's done now, through the computer where they do it in the style of classic hand-drawn animation, which when you watch this kind of stuff, it really makes you miss that kind of animation. But it's basically about this girl whose father was a captain, went out to sea, and, has not been seen in years, and she's moved to a new house, and even in this new house, she's always raising these flags, in hopes of, it's the flags are basically to communicate with sailors who are out at sea, and, she's raising these flags in hopes that her father will one day come back and see these flags and still find where she is. And that's the basic concept of the film, and it's set during, I believe it was the 1960s, at the same time where the Olympics was planning on coming to town, and one of the big clubhouses where all the kids, who go to the girls' school, they're basically thinking of tearing down this building to use it for some kind of a thing for the Olympics. And it's that the other side plot is all the people trying to, band together with the main girl and his friend. She becomes friends with this boy and trying to, stop this from happening. It's just a really, really well done film. Has a bunch of features on here. The one I liked too was the American, doing the American dubbing for the film. And they always do a really good job of these movies with the American cast. They really put together a lot of cool people. They got, Bo Bridges, Jamie Lee Curtis. They got, Ron Howard, Emily Osment, Aubrey Plaza, who was in the movie that I really liked, The To-Do List. So I really think it's one of the funniest movies I've seen in a long time. It's too bad that it did not do very well at the theater. It kind of was one of those ones that not too many people saw. But this was just a really, really well done one. Like I said, though, it's more, not as much of a fantasy as some of the Studio Ghibli films are, but more of kind of like a normal film in their animated style. The next one from Warner Brothers is the DVD Blu-ray digital copy of The Great Gatsby. This is one that I really, really did like. And I know there's been a lot of, Great Gatsby movies. I think there was a BBC series, and there was one in the 70s, which I think came out right around the same time that this one came to theaters. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio as the Gatsby character, and Tobey Maguire. And Tobey Maguire is this guy who works on Wall Street in the stocks, and he lives in this kind of really small house next to this gigantic mansion owned by Gatsby, by Leonardo DiCaprio's character. And he's always seeing things going on across the street, all this kind of loud music. There's always these crazy parties going on over there, and one night he ends up getting an invitation over this party, which is kind of weird, when they see that he got invited. When he's going in, people are like, no one's ever invited to this thing, and no one really knows who Gatsby is. They've never seen him. They all have these kind of ideas about him, and they've all heard all these stories, like he did this and he did that, but they don't really know who he is. He's always kind of hiding upstairs, kind of looking down. And basically, Leonardo DiCaprio is, the cousin of Carey Mulligan's character. And it's one of those movies where you can't say too much about the movie, but you kind of find out with this movie that there's a whole reason for all these parties. That they're not just for, having a party and showing his wealth and things like that. There's all these reasons behind it. It's a very sad movie, too. Leonardo DiCaprio, he did a really good job in this. Just the kind of things that are going on in the movie. Like I said, you can't say too much about it. It really was well done. I know one thing that is kind of a little off with some of it is just some of the music. Like some of the music, because they use modern music, and some of it fits a little bit better than others. Lana Del Rey and that kind of music, some of the rap kind of music just kind of doesn't fit totally perfect to like some of the dancing and things like that. But then they kind of like change the tone about halfway through, and it kind of becomes more like classical score and things like that. That was one of the only kind of things to me that didn't totally fit all the times. I know they were trying to kind of give it a modern feel, though. So with that, it does kind of fit, just to kind of make it a modern adaptation of the story. It's got a bunch of features on here, deleted scenes. It's got one cool feature on here with Tobey Maguire doing video blogs on the set, going around and showing the things he saw. That's a really fun one. It's got a thing on here about the costumes, just a bunch of different features and things like that. Like I said, though, I really enjoyed that one. The next one from Anchor Bay, and this one got a lot of kind of mixed reviews, and it didn't, not so many people saw this, and, I really like this film. I really love Rob Zombie's films, and if you like Rob Zombie, and you like, 70s kind of, Gene Roland films, and just a lot of those kind of, like, Stanley Kubrick kind of vibe, long shots, things like that, and it's Rob Zombie's The Lords of Salem. Has a really, really cool cover on it. I will say it was a little upsetting, though, that they didn't include the deleted scenes on this, because it's one of those things, though, you don't know if how many of those deleted scenes were actually filmed or how much it was just kind of talk. Because I know there's a lot of different people, like the one kid from the Brady Bunch played like a TV host, and I think Clint Howard was originally in it. Just a bunch of Udo Kier, I believe. There's just a bunch of people I know they cut. This would have been cool to know where they were. I know, like, Michael Berryman, Sid Haig, basically became extras almost because they cut it so quick. But I really, really like this movie. It's basically about Sheri Moon Zombie, Rob Zombie's wife, and she's this radio DJ at this really cool radio station. It's kind of like about like Satan's music and all that kind of like a Howard Stern kind of radio station, but a smaller kind of thing. The main radio host, with her, Sheri Moon Zombie, is Ken Foree, who's been in, Dawn of the Dead and tons of movies with the dad and Keenan Kel. He did a great job in this, but they end up getting this record in the mail for Sheri Moon Zombie's character, and basically by playing this record, it kind of like possesses the people. It's one of those kind of very weird movies with these witches. They cut back and forth to these scenes of these witches. The one woman from the witches, the one from a number of movies, I don't know if her name is listed on here. I keep forgetting her name. Meg Foster, who was in They Live and a number of movies. She was great and really creepy as like the head witch. But there's these crazy scenes of these naked witches and just a really weird kind of movie. It's not for everybody, but I really, really liked it. And it's basically about Sheri Moon Zombie's character being possessed and all these weird things happening around the town in Salem. I don't know. I just really love this. It's got a commentary on here, which is cool. At least it has something on there. Like I said, though, I with Rob Zombie's movies, though, it's always kind of, you hear about a lot of things, just like the House of a Thousand Corpses. There was always talk about there being a director's cut, but then it never ended up happening. The next one from Anchor Bay as well. This one is one of those movies that has like the highest recommendation to me. Like, I absolutely love this movie. It's a real dark comedy, really kind of crazy, and it's Pawn Shop Chronicles, and it's this movie that all kind of relies around this pawn shop, and like, these characters in a pawn shop and people who bring items, and it kind of is an anthology film, kind of like Creepshow, kind of those kind of vibe anthology films, but more comedy, dark humor kind of things. Certain items that come in and then it relates to the story. Like, one of them is about a guy who comes in pawning a gun, and it's about these guys who are planning on robbing someone. One of them is Brendan Fraser's character, who is this kind of bad, terrible Elvis impersonator who has to pawn his necklace, and it all involves him in this town, coming into town to this show at the fair. And Brendan Fraser, it's like, with Brendan Fraser's part, I really loved it. It kind of reminds me of the way he, like some of the kind of crazy characters he used to play in the 90s. Like those kind of over the top, kind of like Monkey Bone, like kind of characters I haven't seen him play in a long time. It's got a whole bunch of other people. Vincent D'Onofrio, Elijah Wood's character is absolutely amazing. He's been doing some really pretty cool, crazy kind of horror themed things like with Maniac and things like that. But the one character is Matt Dillon's character, who comes to pawn his ring with his new wife because they ended up getting their bank account hacked, and it ends up coming to pawn his ring and seeing a ring of his wife who went missing 6 years ago, disappear without a trace. And it's him going to the town trying to find his wife with an insane result of what he finds. I don't know, just this is one of those movies I absolutely loved. Like I said, it's a really crazy out there movie, but I really think you guys would definitely love this one. The next one is the Academy Award nominated film Kon-Tiki, and this one I was really interested in. I really like the cover on this too. It has a real like 1960s kind of like National Geographic kind of vibe to it. They gave it that kind of like old, kind of washed out kind of look. So I really like, and the coolest thing about this too is there's so much of these like there's sharks in this movie. Like that's one of the things that everyone talks about too is, and they are some of the best CGI I've ever seen in my life, to the point where I thought that they might have like what they did to a shark. I'm like, did they do that to the shark? I don't know how the hell they got permission to do that. Like it looked so real. It's basically about this guy who is a scientist and he wants to prove that you can. It was something about like going from the South America, going from one side of the ocean to the other, like 4,000 something miles, and trying to prove that this tribe had, was able to actually came to this one area from this area. I'm not great with, history and all that stuff, so trying to explain that aspect is not perfect. But it's basically him and these group of these other guys that are floating on this big raft. Kind of reminds me of the raft that they made in Rescue from Gilligan's Island, when they put the huts on this raft. It was almost looked a little bit like that, but this huge gigantic raft, and they're basically floating out on this raft to try and get from one side, going through storms and going through all these kind of problems. So if you like kind of like sea movies and movies where there's all kinds of issues out at sea and kind of like that kind of stuff, you would definitely like this. Just a really, really well done story. It takes about 30 minutes to really pick up. Like the first little bit is a little slow, and then it really picks up. The thing that was kind of cool about this too was it was shot 2 times, one in Norwegian and then one in English. So it was actually shot in English, so there's both versions on here. The next one I got from Millennium Entertainment is The Iceman, which is the true story of like the contract killer. What was his actual name? Richard Kolinski, I believe you say, played by Michael Shannon in the film. Michael Shannon, did an outstanding job in this. He was just in the Man of Steel movie. He was in Premium Rush, and I liked him in Premium Rush. Like he played this real over the top. This one though, over-the-top character in this, but this one he does an amazing job, and it's almost, I really do wonder if he's going to get some kind of a nomination for his performance in this, because it's really one of the standout films in the last long time. But he's basically playing this contract killer. He starts out in the movie working in the adult film business, like developing film and things like that. A mob boss played by Ray Liotta comes in there and basically shuts down the business, and he ends up tying up loose ends for Ray Liotta's character. He's going to get killed by him. But Michael Shannon's character, has all this aggression and rage, and you see him killing these other people, and you can tell that he has this in him to kill people. He ends up working for Ray Liotta's character, doing all these kills for him, and at the same time, he's married, recently got married to Winona Ryder's character, and she has no idea about this. He's a family man. Everyone around the town loves this guy, would never know this is going on. So it's about him leading these 2 lives. Just a really, really well done movie. It's got a making of feature on here and some behind the scenes. This is one that I would really recommend checking out. Great performances and a great, story, for another, for one of the best, I would say, serial killer movies. So sometimes with serial killer movies, they're like some really, really low budget kind of things, but this was really well done. The next one from Millennium as well is What Maisie Knew, and it's stars Julianne Moore and Steve Coogan. It's really, really sad but well done film about this girl who's kind of in the middle. It's kind of done all through her perspective. Like even the camera's low. Kind of really like it never leaves the girl's side. Like it's always from what she sees. Kind of side angles. If she hears something, kind of like that. It was a really cool aspect of how they made this. But it's about, she's in the middle of this. The parents are just getting divorced. The mom is kind of like a Courtney Love rock star who's been at it for a long time. The father is this business guy, and they're recently getting divorced, and they're having these terrible fights, and they're never really around for her. The mom is getting, the dad gets married to the babysitter of Maisie, and it's basically just using her to take care of her, because neither of them can really take care of this girl at all. They have no abilities, and they really just terrible at it, and it's really pretty sad. And it's also, the mother gets married to this guy, and it's basically one of these movies about showing the kind of using people for, marriage to take care of this girl, and just a really sad movie with these parents and not taking care of her, and the other people who are, and, neglecting her and forgetting to pick her up, and all these kind of issues that are going on. Really good outcome to the movie, but also really very sad. But this is a really well acted film, and it's a really sad one too. The next one from Image Entertainment is the Christian Slater film Strand, and this is one I was really interested in seeing. This is basically about, one thing I want to say too, this is the first movie in such a long time where I can remember actually seeing miniature sets. There's miniatures of a police station. I believe Moon did it as well. I mean, the miniature sets were kind of photographed a little off because it kind of made them look a little small. Just the way they filmed some of it, they just kind of, it wasn't like the absolute best miniature photography, but it was really pretty cool to see that again. I mean, you really could tell that it was miniatures, but I would rather see that than CGI. But it's about this space station on the moon. They've been up there for like 163 days, and all these asteroids end up hitting the station, damaging one area, and they have to figure out how to close it off or they're all going to die. One of the astronauts is in there, goes to get the, clean up the debris and things like that, ends up finding this rock, this asteroid with this stuff in it. They start studying it, and it kind of starts to mutate and growing, and the two that are exposed to it are basically, getting sick, and all these bad things are happening. The one woman's getting, pregnant from it. They don't know what's going on. It's kind of like an Alien kind of movie, though. It's like there's this thing, and it's kind of has its reasons for what it's doing, and, the one who, gets pregnant, something ends up coming out. It's like I said, it's very much like Alien. There's some creepy shots in this. They did a really good job on the sets and things like that. Like I said, though, it has kind of a feel of Alien kind of movie mixed with Event Horizon and all those kind of creature movies in space. I mean, it didn't do everything I kind of wish it would have done, but it really was pretty good. I've always liked Christian Slater, though. He always has that slightly over the top kind of vibe, but I always like him. And like I said too, it was cool to see miniature photography because I have not seen that to the extent of this movie in such a long time. I mean, even the ships, they have a behind-the-scenes thing on it showing it, but there was so much of that, which I actually liked. The next one is a new film, Evidence, and this is from Image as well. This is from the director of directed of The Fourth Kind, I believe. I like this one a lot more, but when I was looking up reviews for this, I couldn't find really many positive at all. I don't know why, though, because I really did enjoy a lot of this, especially the outcome. The outcome really, if you get through the movie, because a lot of people I said was reading that didn't, I think it was really a pretty smart and good twist. That, some of these movies have these kind of twists, like the whole movie I'm sitting there thinking, oh, it might be this, or it's this person, but it, really was not what I was thinking. The movie's basically, though, this found footage film mixed with this crime scene stuff. The crime scene stuff was kind of miss, on my opinion. It was just people sort of sitting in there looking at the footage, and really wasn't, it wasn't much behind that, I thought. But it was about these kids going on a trip to Vegas, and, they're taking a Greyhound kind of bus that they chartered, and it's picking up people one by one that have kind of chartered this bus, and they end up running over barbed wire and flipping the thing and end up stuck in the middle of nowhere and have to try and find a phone. Go back to this old abandoned gas station, and when they get there, there's this crazy guy with this welding thing, killing people. There's some crazy deaths in this thing, but the main stuff is these, police officers looking back at the footage, rewind it, zoom in, see one, sive, de-blur. They're saying stuff I don't even know what they're talking about. Some of it isn't even possible to do. But they're saying all this stuff. That's why I said it was kind of a miss to me. I would kind of rather it just been found footage, but it kind of does. They kind of needed it for what they do in the end. But, I don't know, I just didn't like that stuff. I like the actual found footage aspect was actually shot pretty well, and, pretty interesting stuff going on. I almost wish there was a little bit more of them leading up to Vegas, because I like that stuff. The next one from Lionsgate is one that I've been looking forward to seeing for a long time. I've heard about this for a while. It's the Danielle Harris film, which she directed, and it's Among Friends. And, it says on the top, she's only in the movie for, a quick cameo, which I thought her cameo was really smart, and kind of her talking about a specific movie she's known for, and it really did work. It was almost like she said in the commentary, she had to do this. It just fits because like her being known for certain movies and things like that, which really did work in this cameo. But it's about a group of these friends who are getting together for this kind of 80s theme party, and when they end up getting there, they end up drugged and unable to move, and all at this table. And it's kind of about this woman who's one of the friends that's kind of talking to them and about all the things wrong that they've done and torturing them one by one. A very well acted film. It stars A.J. Bowen, who's in the new film You're Next, and been in a bunch of stuff. He's a really good actor. Jennifer Blanc is in it. Kane Hodder plays the limo driver and kind of has a small little cameo in it. Kind of fun thing that he did. And like I said, Danielle Harris has just a little quick cameo in this scene that I really love. The scene that she did, the cameo, really pretty smart too. And if you know stuff about films and behind the scenes stuff, it really was kind of interesting to see that. But this is just a really well done, real 80s kind of vibe movie, and even with the costumes, setting it as an 80s party really did fit. But it's like I said, showing all these kind of things that these characters had done wrong because the woman who's doing this had all these cameras over the house and had been filming them for a number of years, and kind of is bringing back all the baggage and trying to prove a point on these people. And the next one from the Bloody Disgusting Presents line is Alice Kills. And this was really, really well done movie. It stars James Duvall, and it's basically about this woman, these two friends, they're out partying at night, they're getting drunk, and they're up on the ledge of this building. They're kind of screwing around the building, and the one girl accidentally pushes the woman off of the ledge. And, she ends up kind of going back in her apartment and acting as if this woman had killed herself. Doesn't want to take responsibility of the mistake that she made by accident. So the police start coming around, kind of wondering what happened. And, the girls were both doing like LSD or ecstasy, some kind of drug they were using that night. And, the police start coming around asking questions, to her about what had happened. The boyfriend, played by James Duvall, is wondering what happened. And, the girl ends up, in the hospital. And there's all these kind of stuff about, even after this accident, she's a terrible mess. And there's all these sequences of her having these crazy visions. And the woman that accidentally did it is like starting to become addicted to drugs and all this kind of crazy stuff going on. But the build-up to the movie is the last 20 minutes, which is one of the craziest endings I've seen in such a long time. Got a vibe of May. And I think the movie, I guess the movie was shot, like, in the scene, the clapboard when they're doing behind the scenes says 2008. So I guess this movie had been done for a while, or maybe they shot some of it. I don't know. If anyone who worked on it, just let me know. I was just curious if it was, out, like, sitting around for a while, because I'm surprised if it was, because it was so well done. Like I said, though, the end is just such an insane... This was the one, too, I would really, really recommend. Very seldom does a horror movie come out that was that effective and that crazy and well acted. The next one from Vinegar Syndrome. And this one, I really loved it. It's a really cheesy, weird movie. And I thought the opening was the best, but it's about these crazy, like, punks that end up killing this, coming into this... Well, this one guy ends up coming to a gas station, hitting on the soda machine because it takes his money. And it was funny listening to behind the scenes how they stole the soda machine from this hotel. The guy who's talking about the behind the scenes had some really funny stories, especially about Clint Howard. And, something about he said about Clint Howard and the Ice Cream Man. But they end up kicking this guy out, who's hitting on the soda machine, right, because it takes his money and he won't give him the money back. Then all these punks come back, end up killing the father, and the one, I think she gets in the hospital. I can't remember all the details, but just this movie about these crazy punks, and I don't know, it's basically what it is. It doesn't have too much going on. Kind of has like a Mad Max kind of vibe to it. Some really, really cool synth music. And Vinegar Syndrome, the job that they've done with cleaning this movie up, it's like unbelievable. I've seen a lot of their stuff, and they do such an amazing job cleaning these things up. These kind of movies that you would never think would look this good. And the next one from Doppelganger releasing is Eddie the Sleepwalking Cannibal. This is another one that I've been looking forward to seeing for a really long time. It's about this writer that came from Europe into this small town. I believe it's set in Canada. And no, he wasn't a writer, he was an artist. An artist comes to this small town from Europe, and he's coming there, and he has not had a real art show in 10 years. Totally uninspired. The last time he was inspired was someone who had died, and he ends up at this art school, and there's this one guy who's kind of hanging around the school and in his class. He's basically a mentally challenged guy, and the person who's taking care of him, who funds the school, ends up passing away, and no one is there to take care of this guy, and it's in the will that their funding will drop out from the school from this woman who is giving funding if this guy does not have, Eddie does not have a home and no one takes care of him from the school. So this guy kind of has to take care of him, otherwise the school is pretty much just going to close down. And the guy who takes care of him, the artist guy, ends up finding out that Eddie ends up having this thing where he goes sleepwalking in the middle of the night and killing animals. And, from him seeing this, he starts getting inspired and starts painting again. And it starts leading up to worse and worse things. And Eddie is going out eating people in the middle of the night and killing people. And the guy's starting to make his paintings again, getting inspired, and it keeps getting worse and worse. And it's kind of helping the school, but people are dropping dead all around this neighborhood. The police are coming around. It's just a really, really well done movie. And like another dark comedy, really loved it. The next one from MPI is the new Kristen Stewart film, On the Road. This one was okay. It's about this one guy who ends up meeting this guy who's married to Kristen Stewart's character. He's kind of like a rebellious guy, and it's about them going on the road and the one guy is a writer and has no inspiration. It's him trying to get inspiration by going out on the road on this kind of road trip and these kind of adventures, with Kristen Stewart and her husband's character. And that's basically what it was. I didn't absolutely love this one. Had a really hard time getting into it. I mean, it was well shot, interesting like that, but just really not a lot to say about it. The next one is the new Terrence Malick film from Magnolia. It's To the Wonder. It's, stars Ben Affleck. And it's basically, if you've seen his movies, the Tree of Life, and his style of movies, real long shots, kind of scenes with music and things like that. This one's about Ben Affleck, who ends up going to Europe and meeting this woman, falling in love with her, and bringing her back to America. And there's all these scenes when he's in Europe, though, like with the music and things like that happening. It brings her back to America, and the woman kind of believes that he's going to end up asking her to marry her, and she has her kid along, and he doesn't, and she ends up going back, and he ends up meeting this other woman, and she's out there still back in France, and it's just all these kind of things happening. And there's the one character who's the priest, played by Javier Bardem, and, he's kind of questioning his faith, and it's just one of those things that's kind of hard to explain, and, it's got those long shots. I don't know, you either like these kind of movies or you don't. I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was a much more narrative film than Tree of Life, which I had a really hard time getting into. And the next one from Sony is it's a really, really sad but well done movie about this couple who have been married for years. They're in the 80s. They're both retired music teachers, and something ends up happening to, the wife. She ends up having something terrible happen to her, and, he doesn't want to have to take her to the hospital. He doesn't want to have to put her into the old folks' home. Doesn't want to ruin his image and, the image that he has built through the years with him and his wife. There's all kinds of outside stuff going on with his daughter, who's in music business as well, doing music, and it's kind of just one of those really sad movies about love and decline, and somebody who is sick and, making the right decisions and trying to decide what to do in this kind of situation. Really, really well acted movie. I can see why it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Foreign Language Picture. Just really, really well done, but very, very sad movie about, like it's basically about love. It's just one of those movies that really is very, very sad, but, so you have to, if you don't like that kind of stuff that really is a downer, I wouldn't recommend it, but it really was well done. The next one from Well Go USA is Slightly Single in L.A., and this is Lacey Chabert. I never heard her saying right, Chabert or something like that, and I'm terrible pronouncing certain names, but it's this girl who lives in L.A., and she's having all these terrible relationship problems, never can find anybody worth it. Her boyfriend, Simon, played by Simon Rex is doing this kind of weird accent in the movie, and he's kind of been cheating on her, and she's kind of starting to pretty much give up on relationships, and, it's one of those kind of movies, and it's her end up meeting this other guy, and, are things going to work out? Is she going to end up pursuing this relationship? It's got a bunch of cameos in here, too. Chris Kattan's in it, Haley Duff. I said Simon Rex. I don't know, I just thought it was a fun movie. One of those kind of, relationship kind of things. The next one from Vertical Entertainment is Stag. And it's I guess it's like, I don't hear that term very much, but it's basically a bachelor party. But I guess it's, some people say stag party as well, but I think that's kind of like an older term. And it stars Donald Faison, who's getting married, and, him and his friends are getting together for his, stag bachelor party. Donald Faison's very afraid to go to this party, though, because he's always done kind of pranks on his friends. They're always pulling pranks on each other. He's kind of afraid that when he goes there, he's going to end up, have this ultimate prank to him. The thing about this movie, though, was the stag party itself, I didn't think there was too much happening in it. Like, it was one of those movies where there's a lot of talking, but not too much funny stuff. And, like, the extras in the movie were kind of, like, all over the place. I've never seen a movie, because, like, the movie was shot so open, you could see everything going on in the background so much. So, like, one extra would be, like, there, and then the next shot he'd be over there. And there was one crazy scene when they all went to the bathroom. It was, like, the four guys, but then when they leave, all these other extras came out with them. I'm like, where did they come from? But essentially the movie, though, like I said, is about this stag party. The one guy I liked was the one actor who was guy who was an actor in the movie, who was stuck in the elevator with the actress who was, Susan Sarandon's daughter in real life. She was in That's My Boy. I really liked that subplot with them in the elevator, and, that was the best part of the movie, I thought. Like I said, the party, though, just really there's not that much happening at this party. I think it's definitely one that would, kind of worth checking out, maybe renting, but not like a movie that I loved, because like just was kind of missed opportunities, I thought. And the next one from Image Entertainment is Scavengers, and it stars Sean Patrick Flannery from, The Boondock Saints and a bunch of different stuff, Saw 3D, I believe. He's basically this kind of crazy scavenger in space. It's about this group, this ship that's kind of stealing from ships out in space, and this other ship has found this device. It's like owned by this alien device, and if you touch the thing, you end up blowing up. And Sean Patrick Flannery's character gets his face burned. And the thing is, it's one of those real, like, over-the-top performances. Like, he's like, well, this place and memories are gonna come. I'm gonna get that doomsday device, and I'm gonna, for burning my face, because this bad situations are coming down my way, and I won't take this sitting down. I don't know, it's just this peculiar performance. Like, I don't know, it's just like one of the peculiarest performances I've ever seen. And the movie, too, has this really odd CGI. Like, this movie, like, if you told me that this movie was shot in 1994 and they added Sean Patrick's character into this, later, like in 2013, but the movie was filmed in 94, you would believe it. Because it has, like, this CGI, like, I never even seen such unrendered CGI. It's like the earliest stages of CGI, like in the beginning. Like, it was almost like it was from some other movie or something. I seldomly like to say too much negative about things. I mean, this one has a lot of negativity. But it's about them trying to get this doomsday device. Like, there were some cool sequences, like with the doomsday device when it was killing people. Like, it blew people up, filled the whole room into like a kind of like crazy level of blood everywhere. I was like, what? I don't know. It's just one of those things where I couldn't get over the CGI and just some of the acting in it. The next one from Image as well is the final season of The Twilight Zone, which is a really great anthology show. This one has some really classic episodes on here. It has Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, which is the classic one with William Shatner with the monster on the wing of the plane, which they, was one of the stories that they remade for the movie. Really, one of my favorite sequences. Also the one about a doll on here, about a guy who gets a doll for his daughter. And, they also, this crazy doll, and that was also remade in The Simpsons with the Krusty doll. Kind of, they changed it a little bit. But, if you haven't seen this one, Rod Sterling hosts the show and introduces it. He also did, down the line, The Night Gallery. Other great anthology one was The Outer Limits, which was kind of airing around the same time as this one. Like, I think by about now, like the last season is when it started. It's just a really, really well done, horror anthology story. And the next one from Arc Entertainment, this is a Walmart exclusive. I think comes out in like a month or so everywhere else. Really, really like this one. You know, Val Kilmer is only in it for a little bit, but plays this really creepy character, and the director has done stuff like Taking Lives and things like that. So I think even though this is like a PG kids, like I think it's considered like a religious film, but he kind of played it to this creepy level, and I think he kind of put like a real creepy performance into it because the director has done more of those kind of movies and not many of these. So it kind of gave it this really crazy vibe, which I really liked. It was like one of the favorite Val Kilmer things I've seen him in a long time. So it's called Standing Up. It's about these two kids. Definitely has a Stand By Me kind of vibe to it. Like I said, though, it's got that religious aspect, but I almost feel like that was added in later because they only, like, in the narration, you only hear, like, 2 references to that kind of thing. So I almost feel like that might have been just put in later to say it was that kind of thing, because it wasn't giving me that kind of vibe. But it's these 2 kids that are in camp, and they end up having at this camp this terrible hazing activity where they take the clothes from the kids and leave them out on this island, and they're coming, left them out there alone, and these 2 kids end up, this terrible thing is going on at this camp. They end up running away from the camp, and, the one girl calls her mother, is afraid to tell her what happened, and they end up, she won't come back and get her for 3 days, so they end up running away and kind of hiding out, and it's kind of like the adventure that they go on, and they end up wandering to this other camp, and really love the sequences at the other camp. Just a really, really well done, one of those movies that was just so heartfelt, and just such a positive movie, too, about, people getting over terrible things that happened to them, in the camp, too. The one woman in this movie, too, who was the counselor who comes looking for the kids, was so funny. She looks exactly the same, was the actress from the The Secret Garden and The Langoliers, so it was pretty cool to see her in something again. This is just a really, really well done movie. The next one from Kino, from the Mario Bava collection, is the $5 for August Moon, which is kind of like a Clue whodunit film. Really did have that kind of vibe to it, about these people who go to this kind of party on this island in this kind of really pretty cool looking mansion, and they kind of want to, the guys are there want to buy this kind of plans for this, some kind of like, so I don't know exactly what it was. Was these sort of like kind of plans for something that they wanted to buy for this kind of formula, and the one guy didn't want to sell, and people start dying on this island one by one, and there's these crazy scenes when they die, when they hang them up in the meat locker, and they're playing these kind of really weird music that there's some really interesting music and some real swinging 60s music. I mean, the movie was 1970, but it had like that Austin Powers like swinging groovy music in it, which is kind of funny. Like many of the Mario Bava movies have had this kind of real swinging music. I really liked this one though. It was, like I said, it was kind of like a Clue whodunit movie, trying to figure out who was killing everybody on this island that they were at. And the last ones I got from Arc Entertainment are 2 end-of-the-world films, natural disaster kind of films. The one is Super Eruption, which is about this dormant volcano that's, lay dormant for years under a Yellowstone National Park that is starting to erupt. And it's basically about the scientist and the park ranger trying to stop this. And the other one is Seattle Superstorm, about this huge storm coming into Seattle. And they're basically movies, though, about trying to stop what's going on and, trying to find an end to it. I believe Superstorm was for the Sci-Fi Channel. And I don't know if Super Eruption, I know one of them was and one of them wasn't, but they're like, natural disaster, end of the world kind of films. This one was a lot like Volcano, and, if you like these kind of movies, they're fun movies, like, what you're getting into with them. So anyway, though, guys, thanks a lot for watching the new Blu-ray DVD collection update, and I'll see you guys later.